Good evening and welcome to the Monday, April 6, 2015 Jurupa Unified School District Board of Education meeting. We'll start with a roll call, please.
President Schmidt.
Here.
Trustee Mendez.
Here.
Trustee Char. Here. Trustee Garcia.
Here.
Trustee Johnston.
Here.
Angelo Quiros.
Here.
Wendy Mendoza absent. Javier Lopez absent.
Thank you. And before we do the flag salute, I would like everyone to remain standing for a moment of silence after the salute for Mr. Paul Merez, who passed away on March 18th. Mr. Merez worked as a general maintenance journeyman in the maintenance department for more than 30 years before his retirement in 2008. And the board would like to send his family and staff condolences. And with that, Angela, would you like to lead us in the flag salute?
Would you please stand? Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. And we'll start tonight with the student board member welcome, Mr. Duchamp.
And 1 second, Angela, just before I wanted to mention something about Mr. Merez. If you've driven through the district, you have, without a doubt, seen his handiwork. Because Paul probably did a significant amount of the concrete work, the wrought iron work, and really the crafts work that's been done by many of the people in the district. I don't know if he was the first, but he certainly was a major part of the kind of start of that work in the district. So I think this district, probably beyond any other, I'd like to say, for the crafts work our people do. They enjoy it, they do a great job, and Paul was a major part of that. So I'm sure you've all seen his work, walked on sidewalks he's poured, or through gates that he's put up. And with that, Angelo, if you'd like to tell us about Jurupa Valley, and if you want to tell us about Patriot Jurupa, you can keep going.
Good evening, everybody. JVHS had a great spring break. Our FFA debate team qualified for state finals and will be attending. This Thursday is the spring choir concert. Prom will be at the Reef in Long Beach and tickets are on sale. Everyone's really excited for that. HB is working hard for our last pep rally coming up. Our spring sports are doing great and are finishing their season strong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to recognize the best of the best for January, February, and March. Our employee recognition program, Mrs. Rush.
Thank you. Well, for our last meeting of the year, Trustee Mendez joined us as a new member of our committee, and so we welcomed him, and we missed you, Ms. Johnston, but I know you went on to not as fun as committee. Best of the best. Anyways, tonight, President Schmidt, trustees, and Mr. Duchamp, it gives me a great pleasure to present to you the best of the best winners and honorable mentions for January, February, and March 2015. Our first recipient tonight is Bertha Barajas, Activity Supervisor at Sunny Slope Elementary School. Is Bertha here? Yeah. So a little bit about Bertha. Bertha has been the first and last face that students and parents see each day during arrival and dismissal time for the past 9 years at Sunny Slope. Her big warm smile and friendly words are appreciated on the playground and in front of the school as she ensures our students' safety during recess and arrival and dismissal times. She knows every student by name and is loved and respected by all. And we'd like to thank Bertha for everything she's done for the district and congratulate her tonight. Next recipient is Kenya Catalan, translator clerk typist at Rustic Lake Elementary School. And Kenya's not here, so a little bit about her. Kenya's held a variety of positions in her 14 years of employment with the district, with her most position being translator clerk typist. Kenya is the liaison between the school's Spanish-speaking parents and the principal. Customer service comes natural to Kenya. She exhibits a calm demeanor and has the ability to soothe upset parents and students. When she sees a need, she unassumingly fills it because it's just the right thing to do. And she often takes lost and found items home to wash them so they're nice and clean when the students reclaim them. Kenya's helped build a great family with Russ Plain, and again, we congratulate her tonight. And I don't believe our next recipient is here, Jesse Twait. Nope, Jesse's our head custodian at Nueva Vista High School. He's worked for the district for the past 18 and a half years and began serving the community at Nueva Vista since the summer of 2013. Jesse is a positive role model for the students and was nominated by the staff for displaying a positive attitude and always willing to assist whenever there's a need. He has a knack for creatively solving problems and doing what he needs to do to get the job done. And Nueva Vista would like to thank Jesse for everything he does each and every day, and we would like to congratulate him tonight. Next recipient is Rebecca Capita, math teacher at Patriot High School. Come on up. Becky is a dedicated and hardworking teacher who does so much for her students. She has touched the lives of many students with her selfless giving and caring and positive manner. If a student needs support, Becky makes sure they get it. Whether the need is in the classroom or a personal need such as making or buying food for the students who don't eat on a regular basis, or just sponsoring students for field trips or shorts for track, Becky takes care of it. Thanks, Becky, for being such an asset to the staff and students at Patriot, and congratulations on your recognition tonight. Next recipient is Karen Geringer. You have to come up too. It's a special Karen is a combo teacher. She teaches 2nd and 3rd grade at Ina Arbuckle Elementary. Karen has worked hard to give her best support and leadership to the students and staff at Ina. Karen dedicates many hours to her profession by developing new and different strategies to assist students in learning, and it's working. Her door is always open to her colleagues to collaborate these new and innovative strategies. Her positive energy and drive is refreshing and appreciated by all. Karen is a dedicated and talented teacher and is truly one of our best of the best. Julia Quinto. Nope, almost. 6th grade teacher at Rustic Lane Elementary School. Julia wears many hats on the campus of Rustic Lane. In addition to her exemplary teaching every day, Julia is also in charge of student council. This year, she spent many hours recruiting teachers and volunteers to help organize a father-daughter dance. This event was a huge success for the girls, their dads, maybe their uncles, grandpas, or brothers, as they were all dressed up and had a wonderful time. Julia is a wonderful teacher who cares about each of her students, and we're pleased to recognize her tonight and recognize her a part of Jurupa's family. Next, I don't see Amita. Oh. Not doing very well tonight. Our final recipient is Amita Cloak. She's the coordinator of special education in our Education Support Services Department. Amita is a patient, caring, committed, innovative, and knowledgeable individual who spends many hours dedicated to the needs of the district's special education students. She is an outstanding educational leader who holds herself to the highest professional standards. Amita personally walks teachers through the necessary steps to ensure the proper services are available for our students. We'd like to thank Amita for all she does for our students and staff, and we are proud to have you on the Jurupa team, and congratulations on your well-deserved recognition tonight. We'd also like to take a moment to recognize those employees selected for honorable mention, So if you're here, if you could stand at your seat when I call your name. Deanna Austin, this lady is 3 positions: instructional aide, healthcare aide, and crossing guard for Mariloma Middle. Noah Kaler, head custodian, Glen Avon. Janine Cortez, instructional aide and activity supervisor, Pedley. Linda Kibler, cafeteria manager, Granite Hill. Mike Presley, custodian, Stone Avenue. Sandra Rainsbury, translator, clerk, typist, Sky Country. Naomi Brush, special education teacher, Patriot. Michael Dorr, social science teacher, Patriot. George Fillinger, English teacher, Patriot. Thanks, and we'd like to congratulate everyone recognized tonight.
And next we'll move to item B and recognize Mike West, Jurupa Valley High School principal. Mr. Jabrowski.
All right, Mr. West, if you could stand while we say nice things about you. I do want to say that being the humble sort that he is, Mr. West didn't let us know about this award. It was another principal who happened to con it, so we got to find out and recognize him. Mr. Mike West, principal at Jurupa Valley High School and a certified athletic trainer, has been recognized by the California Athletic Trainers Association as a 2015 CATA State Recognition Award recipient. He was recognized for his 10 years of service and his 2 3-year terms as the CATA president, plus 4 years as the CATA Governmental Affairs chairman. The association represents and supports 2,200 members of the athletic training profession who specialize in the provision of physical medicine and rehabilitation services, serving as physical physician extenders in the prevention, assessment, and treatment of acute and chronic injuries and illnesses. Congratulations to Mr. West.
Next, we'll recognize the mock trial teams for Jurupa Valley High School and Patriot High School. Mr. Jabrowski.
Thank you. Each year, RCOE, in conjunction with the Riverside County Bar Association and Superior Court, sponsor a mock trial competition, which involves students arguing cases in front of real judges and scored by real attorneys. The competition is open to students in grades 9 through 12 in public and private high schools in Riverside County. This evening, administration and the Board of Education would like to recognize the mock trial teams from both Jurupa Valley and Patriot High School for their accomplishments at this year's competition. And one of our teams was able to be here tonight, so if we could have you guys stand while we continue talking about it. A complete list of the team members from both schools are in your supporting documents. But just to recognize some special awards that team members did get, from Jurupa Valley High School, Singaporean Fong, a senior, earned a silver medal for his portrayal of the court clerk. Caitlin McCardle, a senior, won a gold medal for her portrayal of the defendant. From Patriot, the team qualified for the 5th round, made it to the Elite 8. Michelle Ortiz, a junior, received a bronze award for pretrial arguments. Is Michelle here tonight? Yes. Connor Howard, sophomore, received a gold medal for his portrayal of an expert witness, Bernie Worcester. Is he here? Not tonight, okay. Danielle Ortiz, a senior, received a gold medal for outstanding prosecuting attorney and also received a paid internship. Danielle, is he here? And in addition to that, we'd like to recognize the time and dedication of the adults that worked with these students. So I'd like to recognize David Cow, attorney coach for Jurupa Valley High School, Peter Kim, attorney coach for Jurupa Valley High School, Julie Ching, attorney coach for Jurupa Valley, Lindsay Biggs, attorney coach for Jurupa Valley, and Kelly McCardle, the mock trial coach from Jurupa Valley High School. And from Patriot, Eli Underwood, attorney coach from Patriot High. Is Eli here? Mark Allen, attorney coach. Is Mark here? Matthew Phillips, college student, Patriot High. And Judy Tombach, the mock trial coach from Patriot High School. Judy, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Thank you so much for giving me this time to talk a little bit about the mock trial program. We started the mock trial program at Patriot High School about 3.5 years ago, and every single one of us was new at it. We had no idea exactly how to go about doing this. And thanks to Mr. Underwood, who put in countless hours, donated his knowledge and his time to these students, he gave this gift, this knowledge of having the students actually performed at their best. And it was a very remarkable thing to see the growth of the students through Mr. Underwood's teachings and tutelage. And for 2 years, the first 2 years, it was really grueling. And we had Mr. Patey, Shane Patey, who was with us for the first 2 years. And it was really difficult, and he decided not to continue because it was such a demand of time and energy. And so we were left with us, and we were wondering whether we should go on or not, because it was really a very difficult decision. It's a very grueling process. But Mr. Underwood and the other attorney coaches, also I want to mention Rebecca Selden, who was also an attorney coach of ours in the beginning, but she got a position in Orange County and had to discontinue, but she also had a tremendous amount of input. And so in a time when we were thinking, well, should we continue or not, because this is really a grueling process, the team persevered. We decided to go on and to get to the point where one of our students won the top attorney award, going from we're not sure we should go on because this is grueling to reaching this point. I just want to say that I feel incredibly privileged to have been a part of the process and watch these students, their courage and their perseverance. So I just wanted to honor them and our attorney coaches. And I also want to mention Pierce Ford, who had been one of our original ones, and he actually set tremendous precedence for these students to go on to succeed. So I need to recognize him as well. So thank you so very much to everyone, and also to the parents. I must not leave them out because they allow the students to practice after school, and we were at school from up to 8 or 8:30 in the evenings, 3 or 4 times a week for 2 months prior to the competition or during the competition. So it was tremendous. So thank you so much, Ron.
Ms. Drama, if I may, you and I had a conversation about this several years ago now, and when I saw this on the agenda and what you have accomplished along with the team that's been put together there for this to happen, it's quite an accomplishment, and the dedication that you yourself as well put behind this, I truly appreciate. So thank you to everyone that was involved in this. It's just awesome to see this on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Mendez, I just want to mention that you were my first principal here, and way back when in 1988. I don't know if you remember that, but
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Before you sit down, I want to echo Mr. Mendez's words, because you took absolutely no credit for this, and the countless hours that the teacher coaches put in are just they're countless. They go on and on and on. But you mentioned a couple things that the kids learn out of this that we don't see in the core our California standards or anything else. They learn perseverance. They learn about something they know absolutely nothing about, and they dive into it with such depth and intensity. And this is a skill that I can say to you as students that is a lifelong skill. You will encounter things that are new every day that you knew nothing about, and you have to be an expert in by the end of the day. So it's not just a drill for practice, and the ability to present it publicly. And if you have not been there, it is in a real courtroom with real judges, and even sitting as an observer, it's pretty intimidating. So I give the students a great deal of credit. I am just thrilled to see our schools involved, and you did so well. So thank you. Thank you to the attorney coaches, Mr. Underwood. Thank you. I know it doesn't count in your billable hours, does it? And so that actually shows the commitment, because young attorneys and firms have to do a lot of dedication to their own work and to dedicate to not only the attorneys of the future, but the students, and some of them will be scientists and doctors and hopefully teachers in the future. So thank you all. It's just a pleasure to have you do this for the kids and for the district. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, and congratulations to all of you from Patriot and Jurupa Valley. Next, we'll recognize the National School Bus Drivers Day. Mrs. Ford.
Tuesday, April 21st is National School Bus Drivers Recognition Day, and we invite the board members to join us in the Transportation Department at 9 a.m. for food and festivities as we recognize the dedication and service of our bus drivers.
Thank you. And item E is to recognize the model SARB, the SARB. Mr. Drossy.
Thank you. This is very exciting. Jurupa's School Attendance Review Board, or SARB, headed by Sandy Amatri, CWA Coordinator, and Ilsa Garza Gonzalez, the Director of Administrative Services, has been recognized as a Model SARB by the 2014 Model SARB Recognition Program, sponsored by the California Department of Ed, in cooperation with the California Association of Supervisors of Child Welfare and Attendance, or CASWA. Could I have the members of the department please stand while we talk about you? The program identifies and recognizes results-based school attendance improvement programs at the district or the county level that are outstanding and innovative programs that will serve as models for the other SARBs across the state. Applicants are evaluated in 6 different content areas, and they'll be recognized at a recognition ceremony on April 24th at the State Conference for CASWA. The purpose of SARB is to help truant or recalcitrant students and their parents or guardians solve school attendance and behavior problems through the use of available school and community resources. Key questions asked by the SARB panel members are: why is the student absent? What behaviors need to be addressed? And how can the school and or the community help the student and the student's family? Ms. Amatrin and Mrs. Garza Gonzalez would like to publicly thank the community partners and the district personnel that serve on the SARB panel. Congratulations.
And the final award for tonight is to recognize the receipt of the CalPADS Data Management Award. Mrs. Ford.
The California Department of Education has recognized JUSD for its commitment and excellence in maintaining high-quality data in its student information system, as well as the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System, otherwise referred to as CalPADS. And the state uses the district's student information system and CalPADS data, reported data, to determine funding, test registration information, as well as other district accountability reporting and programs. We'd like to congratulate all the staff, the technology department, and in particular, we'd like to make sure that we congratulate our JUSD CalPADS administrator, which is Mr. Daniel Whitman, if he could please stand. Daniel really is all things data, and he does an excellent job.
Thank you and congratulations. Next, we will do something that I was amiss and left out, the inspirational comment. Mrs. Johnston.
Oh, I have to go back to the beginning. First of all, I was thought I was coming after the tribute to Mr. Paul Merez, so I don't have no knowledge of him. But I just wanted to say that I hope that during this Easter weekend that the family was able to have some comfort, and all of those who felt his loss. And which made me think about when I was growing up, spring break was Easter break and Monday was Easter Monday, and we were off. So I thought, you know, even though we don't do this anymore, it's now spring break, the Easter promise was issued to everyone, even though it was changed to include everyone. But the promise of Easter is available to everyone. And I thought maybe it would be a comforting thing to say in the passing of Mr. Morris. But my inspirational comment is the quote from Benjamin Franklin. An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest, end of quote. Because there's always more to learn and experience. And what I find many times we talk more about money and investments when actually you don't gain money and investments without knowledge and hard work and experience. So I thought that was something we needed to think about. An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnston. Next, we'll move to public verbal comments. And Sylvia?
On the agenda on A5, page 1, page 2, and page 3, you have costs that are going out to the delinquent group and other organizations here with the money to be returned. The amount is coming from Measure EE. There's something called accountability, and I think this community deserves accountability as how much money is being spent on these organizations, what it's being spent for. We passed EE, we got taxed on EE, so we want accountability on EE. Also on 4C, page 1, 2, and 3 are your copy of the new K through 8th grade. I thought all along K to 8th grade was a bad idea. You're having kinders with 8th graders. Now in this day and age, when you have 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and up graders dealing in drugs, dealing in gangs, you're putting small kids there. But my biggest concern about this is that this is also going to be a double building. I mean, we have earthquakes here. Are you going to make sure that these kids are safe while they're in school? Because that is their safe haven. That is supposed to be a safe haven. So I'm asking for accountability on the monies that are going out from EE, because this community wants accountability.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4A, administrative reports and written communications. The CCSS and LCAP implementation reports. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. I just have a few brief updates today. On the CCSS and CAASPP front, many of our students at many of our schools began testing today in the Smarter Balanced Assessment through the CAS program. We have technicians assigned out at schools to make sure that our devices and computers are working correctly. I know members, including our director of the technology department, were out checking on sites and making sure things were going smoothly. And they'll be testing over the next several weeks, so we have high hopes for a smooth testing season and a successful first initial CASP testing. On the units of study, our committees are continuing to meet. They're meeting this week, continuing to revise and improve our units of study and our assessments based on the feedback of teachers in the field. Our math adoption committee has completed their journey of recommending some math textbooks that you'll see later in the evening tonight. And the Next Generation Science Committee is working hard to begin preparing for our Next Generation Science implementation, which is still several years away. And then on the LCAP front, we've been chosen to participate in an online pilot of the new LCAP template. And that came about because of our wonderful Terry Marino's knowledge and expertise and familiarity with the LCAP template itself. So we'll report back on how that goes. And Saturday, April 18th, we'll have our 2015 Parent Symposium at Mission Middle School entitled Healthy Communities. And our keynote speaker will be Congressman Takano. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. We'll move on to item B, to review the 2015 graduation ceremony assignments. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. You have those assignments in your supporting documents, and this is informational.
Thank you. And item C is presentation of proposals for projects funded by the sale of general obligation bonds, 2014 election, 2015 Series A. Mr. Hanson.
Tonight we're going to go over a little bit of the projects that we're going to start right out of the gate with our Series A issuance of the Measure EE general obligation bond, as well as present to you the K-8 elementary school floor plan and elevation design. Much of what you'll see tonight has already previously been seen by Trustee Johnston and Garcia in our facilities subcommittee meeting. It's an opportunity to present this information to the board as a whole. The presentation, as I mentioned, is twofold. To look at the floor plan of the K-8 school, with the understanding that that isn't part of Measure EE. It's part of the lease revenue bonds that we've issued and approved in previous meetings. And the rest of the projects will be coming from Series A of Measure EE. So just to make note there on the front page or this first slide, 35 million, we're issuing approximately 30 million, but it's not to exceed 35 million. But the expectation is to issue about $30 million right out of the gate. Our spending focus, when we went, it all came from the Facility and Technology Committee work that was done last year. And it was, as you recall, a comprehensive process where community members and staff and parents visited each site within our school district and identified the needs that existed at each of our school sites. And some common themes came out of that work. Safety and security was a primary need, obviously, and the look at single point of entries or limited access to our campuses for the protection of our students. Another area of focus was community use and community needs that are out there in our schools and the opportunities that they have to utilize our facilities for some of their events and some of the needs that they have in the community. And so as I present this information tonight, that will be at the forefront. A lot of the information, a lot of the needs that we will address right out of the gate will be based on some of the needs that were identified through that process. So we're looking at the safety and security, the common areas. When we say common areas, those we refer to the administration offices, the MPRs, the media, and the library centers. Those resources that are available to our community for access. We're also looking at school front facelifts, presenting a curb appeal to our schools. And that's for various reasons, but one of the reasons is to upgrade and to assist in the community, really, by providing up-to-date and modern facilities, schools within the communities. We also looked at college and career readiness programs, the CTE programs, and I'll go into that at some of our schools, and upgrading the technology that we have at various schools. So that's kind of when we start this project or start the process, those are some of the areas that we'll be looking at primarily. And just to give you a little bit of the background as we move forward, what we did was we invited all of our pre-qualified architects to come and visit the identified school sites, the 4 elementary schools that we wanted to look at. And we invited them all out, and it happened to be one of the only rainy days this past year, but they all came, and we walked the 4 school sites, and they were all able to kind of look at each school and come up with their designs, and we made it very competitive. It was something that's not necessarily done traditionally, but we brought them all there all at the same time. They walked the campuses, and then later on we met with them individually so that they could present to us their ideas and their design concepts. And so that's kind of how we got to this point. And they had the parameters, as stated before, to look at safety and security, curb appeal, and functionality of the spaces, with the idea that we'd like to utilize those spaces as a community resource and provide access to them without necessarily providing access to the entire campus. And so that was kind of the parameters that they were given, and they all presented wonderful ideas. And so the presentation tonight is to go over some of their renderings and what we recommend the board approve as the architects assigned to those projects. So the schools that we're looking at doing, there's 4 elementary schools: Ina Arbuckle, Glen Avon, Mission Bell, and Troth Street, all of which are significantly aged. I think each of them were built in the 50s. And so there's a lot of modernization and upgrading that needs to take place at those school sites. In addition to the 4 elementary schools, we had Jurupa Valley, and that's really kind of a 2-part project. One part being the stadium, the modernization and updating of our stadium, and as well as creating a CTE facility at that campus to help support the STEM program that will be implemented in this next school year. In addition to those schools, Stone Avenue currently is at capacity due to the dual immersion program, and so we need to add additional classrooms to that site. And so a portion of the funding of the first issuance will go to support a 2-story facility at Stone Avenue to increase the classrooms and the capacity there at that site. And then a small chunk of money will be used for technology infrastructure upgrades, as well as equipment and necessary items to support the CTE programs at the various schools. So that's kind of the layout of what this first issuance will look like and what we're planning on doing and what schools we're going to target. The next slide is just the pre-qualified architect firms, and we'll go through each of them as I show the design tonight. Okay, so before we get into the issuance A projects, I wanted to go over the K-8 school. As you can see here, this is a rendering, kind of an aerial view of what the footprint of the school will look like on the 10+ acre parcel off of Wineville and Belgrave. To the south, to the back of the school there, you'll see 2 play areas, one with a track around it to provide access and opportunities for our students to continue in some of their running programs. To the west side, which is the left side of the page, we have our kinder area, and as mentioned earlier, it's a 2-story facility, and the center, being the center portion, is the second story, and I'll go more in depth into the layout of the facility.
Trent, could you show them where Belgrave is and kind of orient
sure.
the school?
So Belgrave, so if you look at, actually, we're gonna have a pointer here. So here's the back of the school. Okay, maybe
it's not showing up. Maybe it'll show
Okay,
up on there.
yeah. So behind the field area, the white area, that's the community park, and then the street running along the park area there is Belgrave. Okay, so it's just off of Belgrave, and Wineville. You don't actually see Wineville. It's just a little bit farther to the top of. Okay, good. So this here would be Belgrave, and then Belgrave, and then Wineville will run right in this area here. So it's off of Belgrave. This is going to be a park area there. Okay. Here's a front view, elevation view of the design. As you can see here, we have a single point of entry coming into this school. Another thing that you might note here is that this is the entire facility is indoor. So what's nice about that in terms of safety and security is that there's a single point of entry for the community, for parents, and to enter into. They're immediately met by the office staff for signing in before they have access to the rest of the campus. There's a separate entry over here, which is the kinder access, which is typically open in the morning for the kids, and then that's closed the rest of the day. So during school hours, there's one point of entry to the campus. Part of the indoor design allows for more efficiency in terms of electricity, heating and cooling, and those types of things, as well as security. It's much easier to secure an indoor school than an outdoor facility. Okay, so this kind of gives you another aerial view of the footprint of the school. This here's the front of the school. This is your main entry. As you come in, you have the office area here. Next to the office area, you have your library media center. Straight ahead, you have the NPR, and adjacent or attached to the NPR are music rooms. You'll note here that in this area here, there's a set of double doors. In this area here, a set of double doors that shut off during, when needed, and for easy supervision to place a person here to keep, in order to supervise the wings that are available. The stairs from the upper floor come down right into the locker rooms. There will be no reason for the older kids to have access to these rooms. They come straight down and then out to the fields. You'll have hardscape here, your play areas, as well as a track and turf areas for play to the back of the campus. Again, we have the kinder area to the edge, to the side, an easy bus loop, ingress and egress in and out of the campus off of this street, which the street here actually has two names right now because the two different. So just so you know, the school site is actually split right down the middle between two separate developments. And as those homes were developed, as the area was developed, they each were able to choose their street names. One side is Spanish and the other is like plants and flowers and such. So we don't know what the street name will be all the way through yet. So that gives you the first floor. And I think I have a little bit closer up so we can look at it with more detail. Here's the first floor. Again, you enter in, single point of entry. We have an entry here, which allows for kids to come in, drop off, and then those doors will be shut during the day, and then you have a single point of entry. We have our kindergarten classes over here, your primary grades here, 4, 5 to this side here. You'll notice here, it's kind of a dotted line, but what this space, as the design came through, one of the things we really wanted to look at is 21st century learning and 21st century learning opportunities. And part of that is collaboration and allowing kids to work together in classes to collaborate in various projects or whatever the instruction might be taking place at that time. So you'll notice here, this space here is an open space, which creates that collaborative learning space and allows for these classes, the older kids, to spill out and have collaboration time and work in a collaborative setting if needed. We also, the intent of the design was to also with this space allow for expansion if necessary. So that's why you see a dotted line there. If needed, we can convert that into another classroom space. But initially, it's an opportunity for us to have a shared learning environment. Again, the NPR sits, you go directly into the NPR. We have your music rooms here. You have an outdoor stage area as well. So some outside activities and presentations and plays and things like that can be done on the outside as well. This here is our set of locker rooms. We have a separate special ed restroom. I believe that's right here. Library media center, computer lab. So as you can see from the design, that whether it's community use or regular school use, there's one way in, and the facilities that would be used by the community are all accessible here. In a night event, these doors would be locked, and you have access to an NPR, the library, the media center, the computer labs as needed without having full access to the campus. This shows the second floor plan, which would be 6-8. Again, we have a couple classrooms with some larger lab space. Again, for 21st century learning, the idea and the intent is to have the STEM program functioning as well at this facility, and so that it will feed effectively into a Jurupa Valley's program. And so those labs would be designed for those types of programs. Again, we have a shared learning space right in the center of the floor that later on, if needed, could be converted into additional classroom space. But it allows for teachers to spill out and have collaboration with one another, whether it be in small groups or in large classes. just some of the data on the school. Right now it's being designed for 750 students. Currently with the new development going in on that end in town, we're looking at roughly 383 K-6 students and about 83 7-8 students. So it's being designed for 750 students with the intent to grow a little bit and as well as absorb some of those communities on the west side of the 15 freeway. Again, as mentioned, the intent is to have 21st century learning programs there, STEM programs that will hopefully, the idea is to feed into Jurupa Valley and that program so that we have sustainability K-12 in science, technology, and engineering and mathematics. So that is the K-8 design, elevations, and floor plan. Before I move on to the Series A issuance projects, I wanted to find out if there were any questions to this point. Good?
We're good.
Moving on. All right, so this is a single slide, and this is kind of a representation of what we could see at Stone Avenue. We don't have actual renderings because it's a portable system that's prefabbed and built. But as mentioned, we know that roughly about $2 million will be allocated to support this facility at Stone Avenue from this first issuance because we're absolutely at capacity at that school site, and we have students waiting to get into that program. So we know that that's a necessity. Right now, these plans are currently in DSA's hands. We anticipate approval on those plans at the end of this month, and then there will be some other design phases with our architects. And the hope, best case scenario, is to have the buildings delivered the 1st of July. From that point, it's about a 3-month construction process. So we're going to be cutting it tight, but we'll be planning ahead on how we're going to support those students and interim housing as we build that facility so that we can open this next school year.
Mr. Hanson, how many classrooms are we looking at in this new building?
This will be a 4x4 facility.
Thank you.
Let's add a question real quick, Mr. Hanson. So we're at capacity, so what, we're gonna add capacity, or are we just gonna?
Yeah, so currently, right now, in the where that building will sit, there's 3 portables. So we'll move those 3, so we're losing 3 classrooms and adding 8, so we're gaining 5 classrooms, essentially.
Is this similar to the one that's at
Yes, Peralta's and Red Camino. Yeah, very similar.
Were they purchased from the same company, or are they?
I don't know if they came from Silver Creek, probably not at that point.
I'm just curious if they look the same.
It's before my time.
They look a little different, that's what I was.
Well, like I said, this is just a picture that the company provided, not necessarily what it's going to look like. I mean, you have the option to put the staircases on the end, put an elevator in the middle.
We think they are.
This is just kind of an idea of what it could look like. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to Glen Avon Elementary. So this is the first rendering that we have of Glen Avon. As you can see there, that's SBA Architects. One of the things we really liked about this design was, first of all, it's the modern and industrial look of the school, and the facility is it's bold. And we looked at the other communities, Troth and Ina and Mission Bell, and didn't feel like this design would necessarily fit in those communities, but Glen Avon was a good spot, we felt, for this design, primarily because of what it provides to the community. We know that there's a lot of development going on, there's a lot of changes being made in the community in that area. You have Pyrite that runs right in front of it, so it's a major thoroughfare throughout the district, throughout the city, and so it provides a lot of opportunities for viewing and curb appeal. And so this was the design that we chose for Glen Avon Elementary. And I just want you to keep in mind as we move through this process as well, that there will this is all renderings, and the purpose of the presentation is to really assign architects based on their designs, but there's still a lot of work that needs to take place. We haven't talked numbers yet, we haven't talked budget yet, and that will be the next phase. Colors and those types of things are still down the road, but this gives you an opportunity really to kind of see what the designs were and who we are recommending as the architect firms for those projects. So as we move into Glen Avon, again, as I mentioned before, one of the priorities is to bring those community facilities to the front of the campus and provide a single point of entry or a single access for the community, and really draw attention to the entry of a school, and that makes it easy to close down during the day or to monitor during the day. So part of Glen Avon's project is right now the library sits in a portable behind the NPR. And if you're familiar with Glen Avon, you have the main office area, and there's kind of a portable there, and then there's the kindergarten area, and that portable supports the kinder program. The thought is to remove that portable and construct a new library media center in that space adjacent to the admin building. So what you have is, as you come into that administration or to that school, you have the administration building, and you have the library, and you have the NPR, all aligned with one another and easy access. The other thing it does is, by putting the facility there, if you're familiar with the front of the school, the kindergarten playground right now sits on the, right adjacent to Pyrite up along the street. And so we would move that playground to the side or to the back of the school so those kids aren't exposed from the front of the campus. So, Mr. Elzik has done a fantastic job with, as you all know, keeping our facilities intact. And recently they modernized that office. So there isn't a lot to do in the main office. So the bulk of the project would be focused on the kinder area, the library media center, and some updating to the NPR, as well as the curb appeal, the facade, the frontage, as shown here. This is just a kind of a layout of how the space would be utilized. You can see currently the library sits here in a portable. What we would do is construct the library in this area here adjacent to the admin building. We'd move the kindergarten play area that now sits in this area right up along the street and move it to either the side or the back where it's more protected from passerbys. There's also an option here to create an outdoor amphitheater with the space behind the multi-purpose room. So that is our Glen Avon rendering and some of the ideas that we have for Glen Avon. And again, as mentioned, the recommendation would be for SBA architects to get that project based on their design concept and their thinking on the project. Are there any questions on Glen Avon before we move on to Ina?
I do have a question. Were the existing classrooms recently, I don't remember, so would that be another phase later on down the line?
Great question. So there's really two things going on right now, right? So we're issuing approximately $30 million with the first issuance. With that money, we're focusing on the curb appeal, our common areas, and there's really two reasons behind that. One is we can't come out of the gate issuing a lot of money right off the bat, and your modernization of your classrooms typically is a lot more costly, right? Because you're getting into individual classrooms, and there could be 30 to 100 depending on what school site you're at. So that becomes much more costly, and so up front we're not able to bond to issue that much right out of the gate. The other thing is that we want to really be considerate of is there's a good, and I'm optimistic obviously because it's kind of my realm, but that there will be a state facilities bond placed on the 2016 ballot. And so with that, the state will have the opportunity to put forth money or to match funds. And so a lot of those matching funds go towards modernization of classroom facilities. And so we don't want to get out and do too much in front in terms of the classroom spaces, knowing that money could be available later. And so we're starting with the common areas, the curbs, the curbside appeal, And then we're going to be working, as you said, in the second phase into the modernization of the classroom spaces. Okay?
I want to add one thing, because this is there's kind of a plan A and a modified plan B and C here. If there is no state bond, we're obviously going to have less money for modernization. So we would look at a less radical kind of modernization. One of the things that's happening right now is our maintenance department is developing kind of prototype classrooms with the same materials that could be used throughout. So that way, first of all, we won't have 4 or 5 architects designing different looking classrooms on the inside. And secondly, if there is no state bond and we have to really, you know, in essence, pinch pennies, we can modify classrooms on a as-needed basis and go from the worst to kind of the less worse and the best. If there's a state bond, we'll be able to do more complete renovations of the schools and take the themes that are in the front of the school and kind of pull them toward the back. The idea is to go front to back, and one thing you maybe we're going to mention is that we don't want to do what we've done before, where we've taken a whole school of kids and moved them out of the school and moved them back. It's not fun to do that. Sometimes it's necessary, but we're going to try to do that a little bit differently and do one wing at a time. So several things are kind of contingent, and we'll know as we go through this kind of where there's money, how much money we have.
Thank you. Great question. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to Ina Arbuckle. The recommendation is to assign or Runau and Clark to Ina Arbuckle School, and so I'm going to go through their rendering and some of their design concepts and utilization of their space. Again, we're looking at a main entry enhancement, curbside appeal, as well as functionality of the spaces. And as you know, Ina is in need of some, you know, a complete modernization. And again, we'll come into our plan A or B, C, and down the road. So this gives you a front rendering of what the school would look like as we come up on Ina. The next slide just shows kind of the same view, a front view with and without landscaping. We plan on having landscaping, some of it anyways, depending on that.
It's getting to be less all the time.
Might be fake plants.
Drought tolerant trees, yeah.
Okay, so this slide will give you an idea of the utilization of the space. So again, there's a great need in the administration office to renovate, modernize that administration office, so there's a better flow of traffic, more functionality with the space, as well as modernizing the MPR and kitchen area. In addition, currently right now, the library sits right here. You can't see it because of the circle, but it sits in a portable right here. So again, the idea is to bring a library or a media center to the front of the campus. The kinder area needs some modernization and updating, so we would address the kinder area as well. Want to keep that to the front of the school for easy access and drop off for our parents, as well as provide the security that they need. So we don't want to move them to the back of the campus per se, but keep them where they're at. But the idea at this site is, again, to bring a library and media center, whether we construct new between the current admin building, we repurpose the current admin building and construct a new admin building. But the idea is, again, to connect those community resources to the front of the campus with one main entrance, entry into the campus, a single point of entry for safety and security. I'm going to go back again. So looking at their design, it was a design we really liked in terms of the presentation and how it sits in the community. So we were really trying to be conscious of the community that surrounds the school, and felt like this rendering and this design concept really fit well in that community in terms of modernizing and bringing a modernized flair to the community, but also not being overly bold where it doesn't fit or sit well within the community. So that was one of the things that we really liked about this design. And so the recommendation would be to award this project, Ina Arbuckle, to Runau and Clark. Again, are there any questions on Ina? Yes, ma'am. I don't even have to.
I have a particular.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at this. To the left here is the current auditorium or NPR.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the main office sits next to that. It will move over to there, or is this all one piece still?
No, it would move over. So
Move
the
over
way.
where the kindergarten is now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then kindergarten playground would move back a little bit.
Yes.
Away from the street.
A little bit more secure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that's the way it was presented. Obviously, like I said, we need to sit down and go numbers, but that's the idea, yeah. And we could utilize the current office, the way it sits now, as the new library media center, adjacent to the NPR. That gives we have
that was the next question.
a community access there.
Add one thing too, you'll note on a lot of the renderings you're seeing kind of some type of brick or rock or maybe cast concrete rock-like things. We did ask the architects to focus on a couple of things as we looked at schools. One was materials that would last a long time and that were durable, hard to graffiti, easy to clean, didn't need to be repainted. Some of the metal back like on Glen Avon was galvanized steel that doesn't need to be painted. We want to really build things that are going to last and be useful to the community for a long time.
Okay, moving on to Troth. Again, this first slide gives you a real good idea of where the front of the school is right now. If you've been to Troth, it's kind of hard to find the admin building and with the layout of the school, right? But the design here, draws the eye to that main entry. The roof lines are changed. You can see them sitting perpendicular to the rest of the roof line, so it kind of draws your eye to that main entrance. And the recommendation is for this site, and I'll go through it in more detail, would be to WLC Architects. So again, we have, this would be the main entry into the main office. The main office would get a modernization as well. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in that office. It's very cramped and tight, and so there would be a modernization in that office as well as the NPR building. Another unique feature at Troth, as you all know, is the clinic, the medical clinic that we have, Borrego. And then the library sits towards the back of the site in a triple wide portable. And so the idea would be, this is a good view here, your next slide. This currently is where the clinic is, and what we would do is repurpose this as the library and media center, and then repurpose the current library, which is in a large facility, as the clinic. And what that does is it moves the clinic off of the main campus onto its own, it's kind of its own separate piece of property on the school site. And they'll have their own parking lot and easy access on and off for the clinic without having to come on to the main campus with all the kids in session. So that was one of the main designs of Troth Street, was to repurpose the current clinic, make it a library and media center, and then put the clinic over on the south end of the campus with its own parking lot and access. Kind of maintain safety and security on that school site. You'll notice here sewer and drainage. One of the things we're currently in process of doing is a feasibility study for adding sewer to that campus. And so depending on how that plays out, money would be allocated as part of the modernization and upgrading of the school site by adding sewer. So that right now is they're looking at what that's going to cost and what the feasibility in doing that. As you know, there's two agencies we're dealing with there. The sewer exists in JCSD, but it's a separate district where the school site sits that doesn't have sewer. So there's some complexities in it, but we're also looking at enhancing that and hopefully, if it all works out well, being able to upgrade our utilities as well. Again, it's a single point of entry. You'll see here these gates, they swing open. Kids come in when school's in session, those close off, and then you have your single point of entry onto the main campus. You'll notice here, this space here is kind of like an outdoor learning space. Spill out of the Library Media Center, and you're able to spill out into this area for some outdoor learning, an outdoor learning environment, collaboration space for teachers, and just another unique learning space that would be available to our students. Any questions on Troth?
I have a question that I noticed you're doing. We're bringing the media centers closer to the front. Is there a reason why we're doing that? I mean, or is it just, it's just the way the plans are coming out?
No, one of the ideas is that the library media centers, they're a resource to our community, right? And so by having them on the back of a campus and a portable doesn't really serve the community well, and it's hard to allow access to them. By bringing those facilities to the front and modernizing them and presenting them in a way that is usable for our community, whether it be books, resources, technology, whatever it might be, it provides a better community access. And so that's the idea.
And just to tie things kind of back to the instructional part and the LCAP, that was a major thing that came out of our LCAP hearings from parents is they wanted access to the community, to the media centers. They wanted computers available to them and even training available. So part of the idea is just to make the whole campus more inviting, but really by having a presence in the front of the school where parents can interact. Because right now, people are walking through campuses, and generally the libraries have been relegated to classrooms way in the back, especially on the older schools.
And I think it's really right now when the library's in the portable, there's really no use for the community in that space, right? Teachers take their kids, but so we're by providing a media center, a library media center, there's more than just books. There's technology and there's other resources available. And with, as you know, these schools where they sit in their communities, they are kind of the community centers of those areas. And so we want to be able to provide those resources and provide access without compromising the safety and security of the campus.
Now, is there going to be like separate entrance going in?
There can be, depending on the layout, depending on which school site. Some of them would be connected and have their own access. Some might come in and go, enter in through the main gates and then have immediate access to those facilities without, like we're right now, for example, you come all the way onto campus, go through all the way through the back of INA to get to the library, and so now they would just step through and have immediate access to either of those facilities if needed. All right, Mission Bell. GKK Works, the recommended architect for this project. This again is another unique site. Currently, as you know, the library sits here to the back. There's a parking lot that comes through the back here, and the library sits in a large space in the back. It could really be converted into I think originally it was classroom spaces. As you enter the campus, this rendering here shows a zero curb entry, zero curb drop-off area, so they're able to come through and make their drop-off. So when I say zero curb, it's just all flat with the pavement, but it's decorative, and you see the security all through this area here. So here currently is the NPR. You have your main office, and if you've been to Mission Bell, it's very cramped, very small, and outdated as well. And so the idea would be to modernize that facility, expand it if we can. Take the current NPR, which is really small as an NPR, but would make a great library and media center. And so to convert that or repurpose that facility into a library and media center, and then build a new NPR to this section here, which would be just the north of campus. Again, so you would have one point of entry, so this is, you can't see it well here, but this is all secure here with gates. They might be open as school starts, they close down, you have a single point of entry into the main office, immediate access to the Library Media Center, and then this facility, as you can see, has its own entrance from the outside, so that would be accessible to community groups without even coming onto campus. So this, because of the design of this, the layout of the school, and where the library is, again, we would want to bring those facilities to the front of the campus. But in this case, we would repurpose the current NPR and build a new NPR. Repurpose the current NPR as a library media center, which gives us a good space for that facility, as well as like computer labs, even a staff lounge. Right now they're kind of cramped in the main office. It gets them out of the main office, gets them their own space, and then build a new NPR that's suitable for a variety of events. This kind of gives you a front view of the school. Again, like you can see here, this would all be open as we started school, as we start school, and then those gates would be closed off, so you have a secure, your campus is secure with a single point of entry through the main office area. To the back side, you can see here, these are those wind sails. So the design shows for a lunch, spill out lunch area for those students. Currently they just use the NPR, and there's no, and like I said before, it's pretty small. This provides for a spill out lunch area, shaded lunch area to the west of the campus. I kind of went over the key components. Again, it's to repurpose the NPR as a library media center and build a new NPR with outside access. So that is Mission Bell. Any questions on Mission Bell? See some common themes in all of this, right? Okay, so let's get to the high school, Jurupa Valley. As I mentioned before, this is really two projects going on at Jurupa Valley. The stadium project, which is a modernization, renovation of the stadium, as well as a career technical education facility for our STEM programs and other programs that are in the process of being developed. So we'll start with the stadium project. Again, the recommendation is to award HMC Architects the stadium renovation. What this project will entail is removing the grass field and installing artificial turf, resurfacing the current track, resurfacing the track to an all-weather track. I mean, it's an all-weather track now, but to resurface that and upgrade that, as well as providing some enhancements to the stadium from the Etowanda view. In addition to that, we looked at putting a monument on the corner there to really draw the eye to the school and to be able to advertise all the various programs that will be taking place at that school, and get a new scoreboard. So the next slide kind of gives you a view of what the modernized field would look like. Again, we remove the grass and add artificial turf. And as some of you are aware, there's legislation right now on some of the concerns with not artificial turf, but the infill of artificial turf. As we've worked with our architects, the intent for us is to move forward using non-recycled material, which is what the legislation is addressing, is specifically recycled tires. And so we're already talking with architects on we're not using any recycled materials, but using materials that are not part of this study. Again, this kind of gives two designs. We actually, if you remember the committee members, we showed gray turf on blue field. We showed blue turf on a gray track. But after much discussion and talking with CIF and other schools that have gone this route, we feel like it's better to stay with the traditional colors of the field, and then in terms of the track, be real conservative. Currently, there's a red track, but there's the option of providing a blue track to the colors of the school. As mentioned, we'll remove the old scoreboard or eliminate the old scoreboard and add a new scoreboard. But what you can see here is that it's moved to the other side of the stadium. It sits to the north side here. It's been moved to the north side of the stadium. Here it sits on the south side, which is obstructed by the retention basin there. By putting it to the other side of the stadium, kind of gives a better view as you come up on campus and come into the field in the stadium to have that scoreboard to the north side there. You'll also notice if you've been at the campus, this here currently sits a sloped hill, and right now it's just really dirt. There's not even the landscaping hasn't survived, and so the idea is to upgrade that area. Not structurally. So we looked at possibly putting in a retaining wall, building up a retaining wall there, and put some decorative signage and things, but decided that was probably too costly, but we feel like we can do some more renovations there, whether we put stamped concrete on that slope just to kind of hide the dirt, and much cheaper, but would give the visible appeal that we're looking for. The next slide shows the stadium enhancements. So this currently is Etowanda, and if you're familiar with the back of the stadium, there's corrugated metal that sits behind that hangs behind the stadium, and it's got a mural on it, a Jaguar mural that's faded and outdated. The idea is to add this screenage, stadium screening to add enhancement and to draw it from the north side of the stadium all the way down. This here currently is a team room facility, and if you remember, it's terracotta roofs and not necessarily, it's like cinder block. But this, by drawing this all the way down and adding signage, we're able to enhance that corner of Etowanda and Belgrave. So that's a design that we really liked. We're even looking at possibly wrapping and using some of this design at the front of the school to tie it all in, leading to the college or the career technical education facility. So that is our stadium, the stadium rendering and the ideas at the stadium. Again, we want to be functional and practical with the money and not do things that aren't necessary, and so it's primarily removing the sod and installing artificial turf with appropriate materials, resurfacing the track area, and enhancing the stadium along Etowanda.
Mr. Hanson, I just wanted to say that, Ms. Johnson and I, we had the benefit of probably like a 3-hour session over all these projects. And just for the other board members' benefit, the common theme really for the elementary schools was really kind of the safety and security. I think bringing those media rooms closer to the front. And just based on what we reviewed, I think at the district, your team, Mr. Hanson, and folks are doing a pretty good job on making sure that we're fiscally responsible with the bond money. And I think that was very evident. And the infill, I just wanted to kind of make a comment. I know that's kind of been a question of mine, and it came up in our committee meeting, and I feel reasonably comfortable with the direction that the district's going in, and so I just wanted to mention that real quick. And as far as the stadium, I was really hoping for the blue, but I guess CIF is probably a good source. But I think that if whatever colors that we decide to go with, I think we should probably, Jurupa Valley we should kind of give them a lot of input on what color scheme that we finally go with, because they'll be the ones that are going to have to live with it. And kind of give them a little more, they'll be a little more vested in it if they choose that.
I do have a question. Is this going to change the entrance to it? I know, like,
No.
now you're going to the parking lot, so
None
everyone still goes through that?
Yeah, the flow of traffic, none of that will change. It's just an enhancement to the stadium.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia, for those comments. It's worth mentioning, we did talk to our architect about the infill, and it's something that we were concerned about as well. And so there is, there will be an upcharge. It's about a third she said, a third of the cost upcharge for the infill itself, not for the entire project, but for the infill. But we feel like that's an investment we're willing to take in order to make sure that we're able to do the project and not have any issues with that legislation that's coming down. All right, our final project is the CTE program, or the Career Technical Education Facility that we're looking at. And again, the recommendation is to use Runau, and Clark on this project. This has been a project that we've talked about for a few months now with Runau, and Clark, and this presentation is going to be a little different than what you two saw in our subcommittee meeting. And again, it was one of those, the cost effectiveness as well as some other practical measures that we need to take at the school site, and I'll go through that a little bit. So the idea here at Jurupa Valley, currently there's the C wing, where we see the small engines, the auto body, your ag programs, and the functional skills program, which works out of the old home ec rooms. So that facility, we feel, is an adequate facility to be able to renovate, modernize, and construct a 21st century type of facility for career technical education. And so that's, after looking at the costs and the student enrollment in Jurupa Valley, and there's still capacity there, for us it wasn't practical to add a new separate facility when we have existing facilities there that can serve its purpose. So that's the idea for the change here. As you can see here, they've kind of demonstrated a pathway. We called it an innovation highway that leads to the facility with a nice outdoor courtyard that leaves the option open for kind of an outdoor learning center, an outdoor learning space. Gives you the college feel. There's some shade structures, and they would be able to spill out into that area, and it's a congregating space for our students to kind of provide that college feel. And then this area here, the C wing, is where we would look at constructing the career technical education facility. This here is a rendering of what that, and you guys will notice, you two will notice that it's very similar to the original design. Again, this is the main quad area out here where it's all cement leading into this area. So you have the outdoor learning space, you have sitting area, panels that kind of draw your eye and lead you to the facility and separates itself from the regular campus in terms of the programs that are being offered there. Again, we have the decorative screening that ties into the screening that we saw on the stadium enhancement to kind of tie that into the school as well. This gives you an idea of what the floor plan could look like. Now, the intent is not to do, what do we have, 7 rooms per se, but we definitely will want to start out with a couple rooms. Primarily this innovation lab here. Currently this facility is the small engines room, and that will be converted, or could be converted, to the STEM program. So whether it be this classroom or another facility that we feel is more appropriate, the idea is to provide that innovation center, that innovation lab that allows us to have an immersion wall or a learning wall, spillover collaboration space, small collaboration spaces for our students, and then work tables in areas where we're able to, if we had 3D printers and do some of the engineering projects, we're able to do that. You'll also see adjacent to that is a lecture hall. So if you remember the other design, that we had a lecture hall. This facility is a large facility. Currently ASB sits there, but could be converted into a lecture hall where multiple classrooms could come in and receive instruction or whatever's needed in those programs. Business and finance, you have video production. Currently these are programs that are at Jurupa Valley as part of their CTE programs. We have agriculture, as you know. This kind of shows a modernization of that facility for ag. Again, so this is a floor plan concept of what could could happen at that facility. Again, until we're able to talk with the architects and the construction management firms and really kind of look at the numbers, that will depend on how far we're able to go with that. But we feel like we'll be able to go a lot farther because we have the bones of the facility are there. It's just modernizing and renovating those spaces to our needs. Just kind of these next pictures just give you an idea of what that immersion or the learning wall could look like, whether it be a full video screen or multiple screens that allow for a variety of different instructional lessons to take place. You can see the cooperative learning spaces, you have the small learning spaces where kids are able to work on projects in small groups but still be able to be supervised by their instructor. So obviously that was all part of our thinking as we're looking at the spaces, to be able to provide these collaborative learning spaces, but also have ability to supervise those students with one teacher in the classroom. So whether we provide, we make glass walls or retractable walls or whatever that might be, the idea is to be able to provide those spaces for our students. Just another rendering of the small group rooms that can take place. A larger collaborative learning space. Conference area, as we get into these programs, we'll be able to do video conferencing or mock interviews with businesses over video conference and things like that. That's kind of the idea, is take our programs into 21st century type of college and career programs and opportunities. So that was all the facilities in terms of the projects of the various schools. A small chunk of the money, roughly about $4.2 million of the $30 million, will go to technology and infrastructure. So it'll be used for equipment for some of these CTE programs, equipping these programs. It'll also go to wireless upgrades at some secondary sites as well as some elementary sites. So it's to help with technology and the infrastructure that's needed, as well as equipment. One program that we're looking at doing in terms of CTE is the welding program in Nueva Vista, and that will take some, there's some technology and some equipment that will need to be purchased for that program to get off the ground, and we're looking at using that small, about $4.2 million that's allocated for technology and equipment to be utilized for that program as well.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Hanson?
Yeah, I have a question. So as far as the Innovation Center, I know that, we scaled it down a little bit, looks like, and I don't know if there's substantial savings. I agree we should be frugal and make sure that we're spending the money properly. I just want to make sure that we're, we're thinking about the future. We got the K-8, and also technology-wise, where's it going to leave us? We don't want to run out of technology or lose that benefit, in 10 years, or maybe we could stretch it out to 20 or something. Just kind of.
Those are good comments. So the technology, and that's something that we were very proactive on when we were campaigning for the bond, was knowing that technology changes on a regular basis, and Mr. Lewis can speak to that, I'm sure. And so the idea is not to have, to be able to upgrade and on a regular basis. We're looking at issuing every couple of years, the best case scenario, and in that we'll always allocate money to technology, infrastructure, upgrades, equipment, and those types of things that have a short lifespan, and we're able to and not finance for a long term. And then in terms of the facility, we feel like that facility still provides us, the foundation, the structure, everything that's needed in order that we would have got at the newly built facility. We can do at that facility, but significantly less amount of money. And as mentioned before, I think the thought was, part of the thinking was, that's a school site that's under capacity right now, and you need to go in and add additional classrooms and facilities when we have the facilities there just wasn't practical.
Thank you.
In placing the STEM back there, it also, we have that property that's staff parking, so if we needed to expand, we've got room that's not really being used because the student staff parking lot is rarely full.
And you bring up a good point. I want to go back to that because that was another benefit to this site. Currently, all this area here, this is currently the small engines lab, and this is gated in here. So there's an outdoor learning space here. This space is all paved and open for additional outdoor, so we can really build off that. If we want to do worker stations and things like that, we have that ability for them to spill out and do that, and really kind of have that collaborative space. So that was another part of it. Okay.
I also have a question. Mr. Garcia was asking about the technology. Will the technology money would be used in the bond after the E-rate did not, because when we use our E-rate money first, and then.
So if you remember, I think it was the last board meeting, or maybe last board meeting, you approved all those E-rate projects, and the balance would go to with Measure E for certain projects.
Okay.
So yeah, you're right.
My second question is, are all of these going to take approximately the same amount of time? Are they going to start at different times?
Good question.
And at different times?
So the process is going to be a little bit different for each project. So there's a significant amount of time in the planning stage. So pending your approval tonight, then we get the teams together for the various projects, and we start doing a master plan of that facility and all the needs that need to take place. So not only with what we're starting with, but also as we move into the modernization of the entire campus. So then we go into the planning phase where the design needs to be done by the architect and go through DSA approval. So they'll all be staggered somewhat depending on how complex the design is and how long it takes to get through DSA approval. So there will be some natural staggering, but we don't anticipate construction for a good probably 9 to 12 months, I would think.
And then that has to be put out to bid, right?
Depending on the delivery mode that we use, but that part is all, we first need to design it, and that's a good half a year.
Yeah.
And then in turn, just as an update for the K8 site, that design is currently being finalized or really being detailed. Then it goes through DSA. So we're looking at, even from now, probably a 12-month process before we're able to break ground over that. It just kind of gives you an idea of the timelines, the design, approvals, and actual work.
I want to just comment, not comment, but fill in a little bit of information. For those of you that are new to education, our city planning department is really the department of the state architect. Our fire marshal is the department of the state architect. Our ADA compliance officer is the department of the state architect. In other words, they pretty much, they go from everything from the earthquake standards to the path of travel for handicap, they work with the state fire marshal in terms of the fire egress. And so everything goes through there. So as you can imagine, we're not the only ones who passed bonds. They're probably going to be pretty busy. That was also one of the reasons we wanted to select multiple architects, is that we would have people starting out of the gate and not just one firm doing that. So we're going to have a period of time that we're going to be keeping the state architect pretty busy. I think weren't they opening a local office? No, maybe I heard that somewhere, but they are our compliance for everything from earthquake safety to handicap compliance. So the process at that point, we have very little control over how much time they take. And they may, depending on the complexity of the campus, they may have different things they want. Like, for example, my guess is on Mission Bell, where you're removing curbing, they're going to have some ideas on handicapped access. So it'll depend. So if you approve the projects, we The architects will start with what they call working drawings. They'll go from the renderings. Our idea is to publicize this, put renderings in front of the school so the public knows this is coming, and work with that and move it as fast as possible, but also prudently.
Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to action session and approve routine.
We have
Two more up, sorry. Presentation, trying to.
Two other administrative reports and written communications. The first is Trustee Mendez, Mike's kind of going in and out, has been reelected to another term on the Delegate Assembly. That's a life term, I think. Congratulations. We are very happy with our representation with that group, and then I think Paula and Trent have something to add.
I'll let Paula talk because you guys.
As part of our GO bond process, staff went in front of the Moody's rating agency on March 20th, and we presented information on the district and the financial conditions of the district and on all the proposed facilities projects that you just heard about here tonight. And the presentation that we provided to them resulted in a rating of a AA3, which is a rating level that demonstrates very strong creditworthiness relative to other U.S. municipalities. And the strong rating will benefit the district by allowing us to have more attractive bonds for purchase and to attract and be more marketable in the market when we get ready to issue our bonds. So we're very excited that we ended with a AA rating.
And to add, Paula and Trent did an incredibly good job presenting both the facilities and the fiscal outline of the district. Ms. Rachel Chang from the Dolinka Group is here. They were a major part of the team in putting the presentation together. Mr. Dolinka was also there, as well as Erica Gonzalez and Bruce Kearns from the Stiefel Group. So this was a full-blown, very formal presentation to Moody's that does a very thorough, if you have an opportunity to read the report, it's an extremely thorough report of the school district's fiscal status, the city's, not the city politic type, but the city's growth, the assessed valuation in the district, and the outlook. So they really put a lot of work. They take those ratings very seriously. And when, as Mrs. Ford said, when the bond sellers go to market, it's quite a process, but they are selling bonds to anything from hedge funds to groups like PERS and CalSTRS and Fidelity, Oppenheimer's funds. So they're selling to a large market of funds. So it was really good for the district, and you should be very proud of the district getting that rating. Thank you.
Thank you, and sorry I cut you off and we moved on. So now we'll move on to the action session and approve routine action items by consent, items A 1 through 10.
Move to approve items A 1 through 10 as printed.
Second.
Have a motion by Mrs. Johnston, a second by Mr. Mendez. Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item B, award of bid number 14-1509, MO burglar and fire alarm system with monitoring services. Mrs. Ford.
The board authorized staff to solicit bids for a security and fire alarm system with monitoring services for Ina Arbuckle, Pacific Avenue, Rustic Lane, Sunny Slope, West Riverside, Mission Middle, Nueva Vista, Rubidoux High School, and the Learning Center. The bids were submitted and opened on March 10th, with Golden Phoenix Electric coming in with the lowest responsive bid of $152,000 with an annual monitoring fee of $6,720. Administration recommends the board award bid number 14-15-09 MO security and fire alarm system with monitoring services to Golden Phoenix Electric in the amount of $152,000 for installation equipment and $6,720 for 1 year of monitoring services.
Make a motion to award bid number 14-1509N0.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Mendez, second. Mrs. Chart, sorry. Roll call, any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Chart?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item C, approve new high school courses, engineering. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. The board may recall last May you approved a course very similar to Intro to Engineering Design. That class began this year at Jurupa Valley High School, and that was sort of a homegrown design for that class. But as they began teaching that class, they discovered the organization Project Lead the Way, which is a national organization that has engineering programs in many, many high schools across the country. They became very excited about that program. It has a very nice set of courses that really adequately and successfully prepare our students to go on to either a career technical program or to a 4-year engineering degree at one of our local institutions. So they have applied for and received a grant for implementation. We visited some high schools in the Riverside area that are implementing this program, are very excited about it. So they've come back to you today with these 2 courses recommended by the Instructional Council. The first is Intro to Engineering Design, which is the introductory or the freshman level course. And then the second is Principles of Engineering, which would be the 2nd year course. And what they're doing in their training, and they've adapted the current Intro to Engineering course that they've been running this year so that it would enable these students to start next year with the Principles of Engineering course. So they'll begin next year in the 2nd year of that program, and so next year they'll have a cohort of students both in the Intro to Engineering and in the Principles of Engineering. So we recommend you approve the course plans to Intro to Engineering Design and Principles of Engineering.
Move to approve the recommended course plan into the introduction to engineering design and principles of engineering.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Johnston, second by Mr. Garcia. Sorry, guys. All right. Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Dabrowski, so this is Jurupa Valley, right?
Correct.
I know there's the other schools, there's different types of areas of study, and is this going to be available maybe in the future for students from Rubio and Patriot, these particular classes?
Possibly these particular classes could become available at the other high schools, but currently it's designed just right now, it's at Jurupa Valley. Students who wanted to be involved in that pathway would need to transfer or to concurrently enroll if that were possible, depending on their schedule.
Okay.
And just to add to that, one of the, at least the current plan, is for each of the high schools to have different career pathways, so that students would be free to transfer if they want a particular career pathway. For example, Patriots looking at first responders, so somebody particularly interested in fire or medicine or kind of police would transfer to Patriots. So at least right now, engineering's at Jurupa Valley.
I just have a question in regards to staffing. With this existing staff that's there already, so we would just expand in having them take on some of these courses? Or?
Yes, the teacher who's teaching Intro to Engineering Design right now, Mike Free, is very excited about the program, and he'll be attending the trainings for both of these classes over the summer. With the program, you have to attend some pretty rigorous training to be authorized to teach the courses. So he's planning on, at the very least, he will teach course 1 and 2, and then depending on the size of the cohorts and how many sections we have, we may need to add additional as we move into year 3 and 4.
And how does this fit or connect into a career path towards college programs?
They have a great pathway, and Project Lead the Way is recognized by lots of universities, and in particular, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and Pomona find them to be sort of preferred candidates because they know the level of training that the Project Lead the Way program provides.
I think that is really exciting opportunities for our students, so thank you.
And it also contains a lot of the hands-on, the welding and design and the CAD and the 3D printing and things that students would be able to take directly to a career if they didn't choose the four-year university pathway as well.
Thank you. That's one my son could have used that when he was at Patriot High School.
After seeing it, if my high school had this, I'd be an engineer.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item D, approve instructional materials for review. Mr. Dabrowski?
All right, we're excited to bring some math instructional materials for your review tonight. Just by way of background, as you know, over a year ago, the math framework was developed by our state. After that, the approved list of textbooks was created. Over the summer, there was a textbook fair where the textbooks on the list and some not on the list were able to present their wares. And our Ed Service Administration chose 4 of the top text series that were available. We then convened a textbook adoption committee made up of teachers from all 16 elementary schools as well as all 3 of our middle schools. And we also began the process with our high schools, and I'll talk a little more about that later. But they have engaged in a very rigorous process. There's approximately a primary and an upper grade representative from each of the schools, and then multiple from the middle schools. They spent several days learning the 4 programs and attending presentations by the textbook makers and using a tool to sort of analyze and look at the best what was found in those programs. They then met and whittled them down to their top 2. And after that, they went through another engaged sort of analysis, and they piloted those programs for about a month each in their classrooms. So they kind of gave it a tryout. The materials were made available at all schools, and a survey was set up for all elementary teachers, middle school math teachers to provide feedback and comment. And most recently, they met and made a recommendation. At the middle school level, the recommendation was a strong recommendation. There was a clear sort of winner. And at the elementary school, it was much more difficult. There was a very close vote. It was something like 17 to 15, or right around that. So it was a difficult decision for them to make, and took a lot of analysis and a lot of discussion. But comments from even those that sort of voted for the one that didn't win included that that both series were very good. That we're going to be okay no matter what we choose. Once they made their recommendation, we brought that to the instructional council and presented that information to them, and then they voted unanimously to bring forward these 2 series that we're recommending, which are both McGraw-Hill. There's a K-5 series and a 6-8 series, and both are McGraw-Hill, and we're recommending that you approve those materials for review tonight. As I mentioned, we initially set out to include Algebra 1 in the discussion as well for adoption, but our staff, our faculty, has asked that we take another look at the 2 available pathways for mathematics in high school. There's the traditional pathway, which would include Algebra 1, and then Geometry, and then Algebra 2. And then there's the option to have an integrated pathway, which would be Integrated Math 1, 2, and 3. And so those courses would contain elements from all the different genres of math or areas of math. So our secondary math program committee is taking a look at that and asking or presenting to all math teachers at the high school level. And we're going to gather input and sort of just take another look. We had initially looked at that and made the decision that staying with traditional courses was the best thing for now, and that was about 18 months ago. So we want to take another look at it. The algebra team did complete their work, and they do have a recommendation, but we're sort of keeping that on hold because it wouldn't make sense to go ahead and buy that if then we made a different decision. So we will engage in that process. If in the end the recommendation is that we stick with the traditional pathway, we'll go ahead and bring the algebra text forward to you for your approval. If the recommendation is that we change, then we would re-engage in that process for algebra 1. So, but tonight we have these two series, and we would recommend that you approve for review those instructional materials, McGraw-Hill My Math K5 and McGraw-Hill California Math 6-8. And as you know, that will allow those materials to go on public display for a period of time. After a 13-day review, we'll bring that back to another board meeting for your final approval.
Madam President, I have a question.
Yes.
I assume these are paper hard copy materials, the text with hopefully technological support or resources?
You assume correctly. They are paper hard copy materials, and they are consumable throughout, which is a nice difference to what we've had in the past. But in addition, there's a greatly expanded amount of digital resources available as well.
Thank you. I make a motion for approval then.
I have a motion by Mr. Mendez and a second by Mrs. Johnston. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment real quick, Mr. Dabrowski, and I was concerned a little bit about the vote. It was pretty close, and I know I talked to you about it, and I appreciate you answering my questions and going through the process. And just looking at the minutes from the meeting and talking to you about it, you know, I know that there were some teachers that preferred, I think it was Pearson, but they also, their comments were also that they could deal with either one. They thought they were both very good. And I think that's those are the comments that you gave, and so just thank you for walking me through the process and explaining it very well tonight. Thank you.
All right, roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Chard?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item E, approve the 2015 mandated core academic and KC 8 through 12 and special education summer school program for grades K through 12. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. You have before you the list of proposed summer school offerings. You'll notice that list is a little larger than last year. We've expanded our offerings a bit from years prior. Essentially, Rubidoux and Jurupa Valley have 14-year-long sections available to them, and Patriot has 17-year-long. In addition, there's our senior non-promote program for our high school students, and then the other programs as well, which remain similar or the same. These courses will be for credit recovery, for validation of perhaps a D that would get a student back on track to be A through G compliant, and a few also for acceleration for students who may be taking an expanded course load and need to get something completed during the summer to continue on the path that they're on.
Make a motion for approval.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mr. Garcia. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Chard?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item F, approve purchase of Dell desktop multi-point 6-seat systems and related equipment for Mission Middle School. Mrs. Ford.
Administration is requesting approval to purchase 7 Dell multi-point 6-seat systems and related equipment to support the implementation of Common Core state standards and online assessments. The computer items will be purchased from Dell using the WISCA piggyback agreement. The licenses will be purchased from SHI under the CASMA piggyback agreement. Cables and headsets will be purchased from Daisy IT and computer tables from Culver Newland. The total cost for the 6-seat systems is $24,530.02 and will be funded through LCFF and Title I funds. Administration recommends the board approve the purchase of Dell desktop multi-point 6-seat systems and related equipment for Mission Mill from Dell, SHI, Daisy IT, and Culver Newland in the total amount of $24,530.02.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Garcia, second by Mr. Mendez. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Chard?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item G, adopt resolution number 2015-56, authorizing the issuance and sale of its general obligation bonds 2014 election 2015 Series A in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $35 million, some of which may provide for the compounding of interest and approving certain other matters relating to said bonds. Mrs. Ford.
Administration is requesting the board adopt the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of the recently voted or approved Measure EE general obligation bonds we've been talking about this evening. The structure of the issuance includes capital appreciation bonds requiring that the board comply with AB 182 provisions, and that was explained at the last meeting by Mr. Delinka from the Delinka Group. And supporting documents include the contract of purchase between the district and the underwriter, as well as the preliminary official statement, referred to as the POS, that is used to market the bonds. Bond proceeds will be used for the improvement of certain capital facilities, and those are the projects that Mr. Hanson presented to you this evening, and those as permitted in the official Measure EE project list. Ms. Rachel Chang is here this evening from the Delinka Group. If the board has any questions regarding the GEO Bond 2015 Series A issuance, she'd be happy to answer those for you.
Any questions tonight?
Make a motion for approval. Oh,
Thank you, Ms.
information.
Chen.
Just information, sorry.
No, you can make the
next
motion
one. Okay,
for
I'll make the
Mr.
motion for the
Mendez.
next one then. I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
A second.
A second by Mr. Garcia. Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for coming tonight, Ms. Chang. Item H, approve proposed projects funded by the sale of general obligation bonds 2014 election, 2015 Series A, and the corresponding architect firms with total Series A projects costs not to exceed $35 million. Mr. Hanson.
Yes, it is recommended that we approve the following projects as listed. Glen Avon Elementary with SBA Architects, Ina Arbuckle Elementary with Runel and Clark, Mission Bell Elementary with GKK Works, Stone Avenue Elementary with WLC Architects, Trot Street Elementary with WLC Architects, Jurupa Valley High School. There's a change here. I wrote it down wrong, but it's for the stadium. The upgrade of the stadium is with HMC Architects. Did they make a note of that? And for the STEM Learning Labs, Runel and Clark, as well as the technology upgrades to the listed schools there. And administration recommends the board approve these proposed projects and with the assigned architects.
So moved.
Second?
Have a motion by Mrs. Chard, a second by Mr. Mendez with corrections. And any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item I, approve site floor plan for K-8 school number 5. Mr. Hanson.
Yes, administration is requesting approval of a K-8 school with the project floor plan and design drafted by WLC Architects and as shown in the supporting documents under item 4-C.
I move as, make the motion as recommended.
Second?
I have a motion by Mrs. Johnston, a second by Mr. Mendez. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item J, adopt resolution number 2015-54, the authorization to encumber funds for the 2015-2016 fiscal year. Mrs. Ford.
In order to prepare for the 2015-16 school year, the district and schools may need to order materials prior to the start of the new school year, the fiscal year. The Riverside County Office of Education requires that the board adopt a resolution authorizing the district to commit funds before the approval of the 2015-16 budget. So administration recommends the board adopt resolution number 2015/54, authorization to encumber funds for the 2015-16 fiscal year.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mr. Garcia. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item K, adopt resolution number 2015-55, the year-end budget transfers revisions. Mrs. Ford.
The process of closing the financial records for the 14-15 fiscal year is underway. Karen's department is working diligently to make that happen. Once all revenues and expenditures are accrued, staff may need to process transfers from various funds to balance the accounts. No additional expenditures are involved in these transfers. However, an account budget with a negative balance may be revised by transferring to an account with a positive balance. So this allows the district to meet all its requirements. So administration recommends the board adopt resolution number 2015/55, resolution for year-end budget transfers/revisions.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Mrs. Chard, second by Mr. Mendez. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item L, adopted a first reading, new administrative regulation 5141.27, food allergies, special dietary needs. Mr. Dabrowski.
Move for approval.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Garcia, second by Mr. Mendez. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item M, approve at a first reading revised board policy 1250, visitors, outsiders.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Mendez, second by Mrs. Johnston. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item N, approve at a first reading, new board policy and administrative regulation 5020, parent rights and responsibilities. Mr. Dabrowski.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Mendez, second by Mr. Garcia. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item O, adopted a second reading, revised and renumbered board policy and new administrative regulation 3270, sale and disposal of books, equipment, and supplies. Mrs. Ford.
Make a motion.
Second.
I have a question on this one, believe it or not.
Go ahead.
As we're getting into the digital age, are we going to also dispose of textbooks in the same manner as we've done in the past? Books, I'm sorry, digital versions of
The
books. Yes.
The digital version of the books?
Right. Or how would that work?
I do not know.
Well,
how
let's
that
look
would
into
work.
it. I just thought of that.
We haven't had any to dispose of.
It's dawned on me
So
the future
yeah,
maybe.
Since it is a link,
Mm-hmm.
as long as we have access
It
to
would be-
that book, and I'm assuming that the access
You
is
just
the licensing,
it expires.
then it would just expire,
Ah.
and then we would no longer have it, but it would be
Okay.
something we'd probably have to actually dispose of.
Well, we won't need this on the agenda in the future. The digital age. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Garcia and a second by Mrs. Johnston on item O. Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item P, adopted a second reading, new board policy 4136, non-school employment.
Move for approval.
Second?
Have a motion by Mr. Garcia, a second by Mr. Mendez. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Trustee Char?
Yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item Q, adopted a second reading, revised and renamed Board Policy and new Administrative Regulation 4200, Classified Personnel. Mrs. Elzick.
Make a motion for approval.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez,
Second.
a second by Mrs. Johnston. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt,
Yes.
Trustee Mendez,
Yes.
Trustee Chard,
Yes.
Trustee Garcia,
Yes.
Trustee Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item R, adopted a second reading, revised Board Policy and new Administrative Regulation 6184, Continuation Education. Mr. Dabrowski.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Mendez, second by Mr. Garcia. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt,
Yes.
Trustee Mendez,
Yes.
Trustee Chard,
Yes.
Trustee Garcia,
Yes.
Trustee Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item S, act on student discipline cases. Expulsion case, agreement and stipulation. We have one. Case 15-040.
Make a motion to approve discipline case number 14-040, expulsion case.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mrs. Johnston. Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt,
Yes.
Trustee Mendez,
Yes.
Trustee Chard,
Yes.
Trustee Garcia,
Yes.
Trustee Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Suspended expulsion cases, agreement and stipulation, we have three. Case 15-042, 15-044, and 15-045.
Make a motion to suspend expulsion cases, agreements, and stipulations, those that were just read by Madam President.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mr. Garcia. Roll call vote, please.
President Schmidt,
Yes.
Trustee Mendez,
Yes.
Trustee Chard,
Yes.
Trustee Garcia,
Yes.
Trustee Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Item T, board member comments and committee reports. We'll start with Mr. Garcia tonight.
Well, first of all, I'd like to send my condolences to the family of Mr. Mars. And a lot of congratulations to a lot of folks. Best of the best, Mr. West, mock trial teams, school attendance review board. They're gone already, but know that they did a great job. And CalPATS, you know, there's just so many things I can't really probably go into too much detail. But I think it just shows that there's a lot of great things going on here in Group Budget. Just can't say anything else about that. Got a chance to go to Career Day at Maryland Middle, my wife and I. That was enjoyable, and I look forward to doing that next year, and maybe other schools throughout the district. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Johnston?
Well, there's so many people to thank and appreciate, and so I concur with Mr. Garcia's comments. The mock trial was really exciting for me. One of the young lady, Danielle Ortiz, I met her last year. Awesome leader. Does every club imaginable. Invents clubs on her own, participates, cares about others. They're just outstanding kids. I know that she's not the only one. She's the one I know. And the other thing I thought about was I was working on an ordinance with the DA, and he told me many years ago, and he told me that he had participated in coaching a mock trial team. And the issue that we had was speed racing, and that was the issue that one of the years they had taken up that issue. So it was very interesting to me, first of all, that those kids got into that issue. And today I'm told by our chief of police that it's one of the outstanding ordinances that we have, yay. And so, but it's really awesome that it can start with students and it can end up in legislation. And So it's just, I can't say enough about our outstanding kids. And I interviewed them every year for the Weiler Camp for Rotary. And I just really, really enjoy talking to them. Also, I am very excited about the engineering courses, and I really appreciate the dedication and the time and effort staff has put in to review the math courses, and I'm so excited about the improvements to our schools. And Mr. Hansen's done a great job, and when we had our facilities meeting, it was awesome. It's too bad that we couldn't duplicate the whole thing, video it, and show you the whole thing as we saw it that day. It was, it's just a wonderful presentation, and I'm excited. And I was surprised that no one said anything about how modern Glen Avon's plan looks, because it is beautiful. I was a little bit worried about what the others were going to say. Is this really okay? And so it must really be okay. I can't hardly wait to work to get done. I'm excited about the K through 8 school, and it's just wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Chart?
When you get down to me, pretty much everything is already been said, so congratulations. But I would like to congratulate Danielle for getting an internship from the mock team. I was a legal secretary for several years, and to see young students, I always hoped that our district would have a team that got through at some point, and I think this is one of the first ones that have been able to do really well, and I congratulate all of them on both teams. Maybe someday they'll be one of our lawyers, who knows? I also would like to reiterate the congratulations that Mr. Garcia and Ms. Johnson also said to Mr. West. It's very important for athletes to be in good health and for him to get an honor for that in our district. As we know, his Jurupa Valley team had the highest academics too, so he's got 2 big marks on his side already. I would also like to congratulate our bus drivers on the job that they do that's so well. Bus Driver Day is coming up this month, and they'll be recognized. And if you get a chance to say thank you to the bus drivers, they do an outstanding job with those kids, because I've seen some of those kids from the elementary point getting on the bus, and they are wild when they get on the bus at the end of the day, and they're wild coming to school in the mornings because they're excited to come to school. And those bus drivers do keep them intact and get them here safely. So please give them a congratulations too. Also our STAR team, I've worked with the STAR team, and that is really hard, and I have heard from a couple of the schools that are have had to bring some parents in on the STAR meetings, and the parents are actually working with them. They're working with the schools. They're bringing their kids to school and keeping them in school, and that's what we need. That's where we'll be successful, and they will be successful there too. Also, our CalPADS data management, I know that starts from the very beginning when a student enrolls in school. The clerks or the secretaries at the sites have to start entering that information, then it has to be kept up. And that's a lot of work for them, so I know when we get down to the district getting an honor for having our data management recognized, that is an accomplishment. I think that's about all. I want to congratulate Mr. Hansen on a job well done. I was really wondering what Einerbuckle was going to look like, and I'm sorry I put you through all that. But that is a school that I went to when I was a child, and it still looks pretty much the same, so I'm glad to see it's going to change finally after all these years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez.
Well, I also look forward to the recognition of Bus Drivers Day. They do an awesome job in having the trust that we place in the precious cargo they transport to around our schools in our district, and it's going to be a good occasion to extend our appreciation for everything that they do each and every day for us. Also, in terms of facilities, it's so really nice to finally see what we envision our facilities to be looking like after some of the opportunities that we're having now to upgrade and enhance the appearance of our schools. I can just envision what a much more pleasant and welcoming environment that'll be for our students, their families, and the community as a whole. And I think we'll take a lot of pride as we see those progressing. And so appreciate all the work that has gone in getting those to where they are now and where they will be ending. But I also would like to take this opportunity to once again extend the appreciation and the trust to the voters for passing Measure Double E, because if we hadn't been for that, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So my appreciation to the voters for their support of our district and our schools. I was also very pleased to see the engineering and design program. I think that it's going to be an excellent addition to the program offerings at our schools there at Jurupa Valley. And I look forward to similar things in some of the other high schools as well too. I think that those opportunities are going to be great for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. And I too would like to congratulate all of the winners for the awards for Best of the Best, Mr. West, the mock trial teams. I know those are a lot of time and effort put into that over a short time, and to have been working for 3 short years and to get that high of awards is pretty special and shows a lot about the coaches and the students on those teams. As far as the renderings, I think it's great that every school is going to have its own individual look. It was a great idea to have different architects working on them so that we don't get the same old at every school. And these are different, innovative. Glen Avon, I like it. If you go out and drive around other districts, you'll see many of them have similar ideas on at least one of the schools, and there is the new ones as everybody's starting to do renovations. So thank you all for all your hard work on that, for all of the staff, because I know everybody had a little bit of say in what was going on and that, and then Mr. Hanson gets to do the hard work and compile it all together. And thank you to my colleagues for putting up with my stumbling tongue tonight. And with that, we will be adjourned. Yes, Mr.
I don't usually get to say anything, but this has been the most exciting meeting maybe we've ever had. And I want to thank the board because you took a bold move to put another issue on the ballot. After losing one 4 years ago, that was a risky and a bold move, and you did the right thing. You all worked hard in the community. Mr. Garcia, you weren't on the board at the time, but you worked hard in the community. And I think you've really done right by the children in this district, and I'm just so excited. It's all on your back now, Trent. No, but I want to thank staff, but I really want to thank you. It took some courage and some risk, and I think you'll reap the benefits. So thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.